Hey, listeners, ready to transform your sleep? Cozy Earth is all about lasting luxury and comfort. Their bamboo sheets have been called the world's softest sheets, cooling, moisture wicking, and unbelievably soft. And I can tell you they get better with every wash. And they have a 100-night sleep trial and a 10-year warranty.
But it doesn't stop there. They have bath, sleepwear, loungewears, and even skincare. Free shipping on orders of $50 or more.
Make sure you go to cozyearth.com, use our code INFOGO at checkout to save 21% off. You can find all of this in the show notes. Welcome to the podcast. I'm William.
And I'm Kat.
And that makes this a dash of info. Keeping up with our 250-year celebration theme that we have going on for the month of July, we figured we would do founding fathers, legends versus reality because, if you read it on the internet, it's probably true.
Probably not. Anyway, this is a dash of info and little things you want to know.
Oh, dang. I so walked all over you, didn't I?
You did, but that's okay. I fixed it.
I'm sorry.
That's all good.
You know what? Why don't you set it up?
Okay. So, first we begin with the familiar image. The founding fathers framed in monumental portraits, calm faces, steady eyes, frozen in the posture of certainty, kind of like on Mount Rushmore. The version of history most people recognize feels clean and unified, and as if a shared vision of liberty simply appeared fully formed. The story is not entirely false, but it is heavily simplified, per usual. The national origin stories tend to compress messy reality into symbols that are easier to remember than to understand. But once you look closer, a question starts to form beneath the surface. What if the people behind these portraits were far more divided, contradictory, and human than the myth suggests?
Human, you say?
Human, even.
So the world before the United States in the 1970s, yeah, in the 1700s, America, well, it wasn't even a country yet. It was 13 separate colonies, each pulling its own direction, shared by different economies, priorities, and loyalties. There's no real national identity holding them together at this time. Everything is slow and fragmented. Messages take weeks to travel. Authority is scattered. Decisions made in one colony might barely matter in another. Governance is more improvisation than structure. Even during the Revolutionary War, nothing was guaranteed. Victory was uncertain. A functioning national government, well, it didn't fully exist for much of the conflict. In fact, in the middle of this instability, key figures emerged not as symbols, but as political actors navigating chaos. Figures like George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, Alexander Hamilton, and our favorite, Benjamin Franklin. And the importance, well, it starts to shift because they're not a unified team with shared blueprints. They are temporary allies bound together by pressure, disagreement, and necessity.
Sounds about right.
So they're the Fantastic Four? Five, I guess.
Right, right. Well, myth number one. The popular image is simple. The founders, as a single minded group, aligned on what democracy and liberty should look like, working together toward one shared vision. But the reality is far less unified. From the beginning, they're split by deep ideological disagreements about what the new country should even become. At the core are fundamental divides: strong national government versus strong state power, elite led governance versus broader democratic participation, and competing ideas about what the nation's economy and identity should look like. These were not minor policy debates, they were competing blueprints for the future. The tensions run through nearly every major figure. Alexander Hamilton pushes for a strong centralized financial system. Thomas Jefferson fears concentrated power and the rise of a new elite. And John Adams expresses skepticism toward mass democracy itself. Now, what emerges is not unity, but constant friction held together just long enough to build something functional. The founding period is defined less by shared vision and more by structured disagreement.
Hmm. Let's get into myth number two. So the popular belief is that the founding fathers were consistent morale philosophers of liberty, study in principle and action, building a nation aligned with their own ideals. The reality is far more conflicted. Their lives are filled with contradictions between what they wrote and how they lived. Thomas Jefferson writes language about equality while enslaving hundreds of people. George Washington, he leads a revolution for freedom while personally navigating the institution of slavery through his own life. Benjamin Franklin, he shifts his position over time, showing changing and sometimes inconsistent views on slavery and governance. These are not small inconsistencies. They sit at the center of the story itself. And to understand them, the context really matters. In the 18th century, economic systems, political survival, and moral philosophy often collided rather than aligned. Ideas of liberty were expanding in theory while existing social, economic structures resisted that expansion in practice. The result is not a set of moral icons, but individuals operating inside systems that shape their choices as much as they shape the system in return.
Now, myth number three. So, the popular belief is that the Constitution was the product of calm minds reaching careful consensus, a deliberate and elegant design for a new nation.
Hey, before you finish that out, I said let's take a small break.
Sounds good.
All right, I got to go get a Coke and read the Constitution.
I'm getting a Pepsi, making
We the
sure our Bill
people.
of Rights is still good.
Well, you got me. All right, we'll be right back.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
I came across Big Fork Brands recently, and it's become one of those finds you actually want to tell people about, and you don't find that often. Okay. They're doing bacon sausage, plus these really solid pork jerky snacks and Chicago style sauces. Basically, upgrade anything you throw them on burgers, hot dogs, fries, throw it on there. It works.
But I bet it's packed full of junk.
Actually, it's made with clean ingredients and real care. That's small batch with no shortcuts, and people are obsessed with the flavor. You can go over to bigforkbrands.com, use our code INFOGO at checkout, and get 20% off anything on the site.
You can find the link and our code in the show notes.
And now that we're back, the reality is far more unstable. The Constitutional Convention is tense, fragile, and often on the edge of collapse. Delegates argue over whether large states should dominate smaller ones, how representation should even work, and whether the entire experiment will fall apart before it even begins. The disputes are not minor refinements, they are existential disagreements about how power itself should be structured. And at several points, the system almost breaks entirely. The Constitutional Convention of 1787 becomes less a polished design session and more a high pressure negotiation where compromise is the only thing keeping the process alive. The Constitution that emerges is not the result of unified agreement, but of sustained conflict under pressure. It is not a perfect blueprint, it's a survival document built in times of survival.
Yeah, when we did our 250-year episode, we talked about, how, the nation was basically built on a divide.
Yeah,
It
that
looks
only
like
increased as.
it looks like the Constitution was written on a divide too.
Right.
Myth number four. So the popular belief is that the revolution created lasting political unity, a shared national direction that followed independence. But the reality is that fragmentation begins almost immediately. Even in the earliest years of the new nation, political fractions start to form. Competing visions of government take shape quickly, hardening into Federalists and the Democratic Republicans. Instead of unity, there is immediate disagreement over how much power the federal government should hold and how the nation's economy should be structured. The divisions are not abstract. They are driven by strong opposing figures and ideas. Alexander 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 Hamilton argues for a powerful centralized federal system, while Thomas Jefferson, he envisions a nation built on agrarian independence and limited central authority. And James Madison, he moves between positions as the political landscape shifts around him, reflecting how fluid these early alignments actually were. The key point is that political divisions does not appear later as a breakdown of the system. It appears at the very moment the system begins. So from the start, disagreement is not a flaw in the design. It's actually part of the design.
Interesting.
Yeah, very. I like that take.
So, myth number 5. The popular belief is that independence led directly into stability, as if victory in the revolution naturally flowed into a functioning and settled government. The reality is definitely far more unsettled. The years after independence are marked by instability and crisis. The new nation is burdened with debt, its economy is fragile, and federal authority is weak to the point of being questioned. So the structure of government exists, but its power is very uncertain. Tensions surface quickly. Events like Shays' Rebellion expose how fragile the system still is, revealing how difficult it is to maintain order without strong central authority. The central truth is that the revolution solved one problem but immediately created another. Independence is achieved, but governance is not secured. The challenge shifts. It's no longer about winning freedom from a system. It's about building a system capable of holding that freedom in place.
So, why the myth was built? Simplified founding stories exist because nations do not just preserve history, they organize it into something usable. National identity depends on shared symbols. A country of competing interpretations is harder to hold together than one with a common narrative, even if that narrative trims away complexity. Education systems, well, they reinforce this tendency. Clarity is easier to teach than contradiction, and simplified versions of history travel farther and faster than, the real history. And over time, those simplified stories, well, they become more than teaching tools. They become cultural glue, if you will, passed down as a shared reference point across generations. In that sense, founding myths are not accidental distortions, they're functional. Myth making operates like infrastructure. It supports cohesion in the same way roads support movement, not by perfectly representing the terrain, but by making it navigable.
The founding fathers were not flawless architects or pure heroes. They were political actors navigating uncertainty, conflict, ambition, and survival in a moment where nothing was guaranteed. They argued, compromised, contradicted themselves, and built systems while still debating what those systems should even become. So the United States did not emerge from perfection. It it emerged from contradictions managed over time, held together by pressure, compromise, and constant adjustment. And in the end, the myth turns them into statues. The reality returns them to history as people.
As people, because they were just human. They weren't
Yes.
they weren't the Fantastic Five.
No, they're just people doing peoply things.
People-y things, I like that. I mean, this kind of goes along with our 250, and we could probably do episodes on pretty much every one of these myths, full episodes. But
Oh, yeah.
I thought this one was pretty fun for a little dash of info.
For a little sprinkle in there for sure.
Yeah.
Now, if you would like to support this podcast, tell a friend and help get the word out.
If you would like to help support the show, you can do so at Patreon, or you can just take advantage of some of our sponsors. You can find all of those links in the show notes.
And as always, William and I want to thank you for listening.
Whether you just tuned in or you've been with us from day one, thank you.
Join the Facebook group at Info on the Go
Over there, you can just get to know us.
or ask us a question.
but follow us wherever you get your podcast.
Send us some fan mail using the link in the show notes or leave a review.
Leaving that review really does help others find us. But if you would like, you can email Kat or myself directly at,
infoonthegopodcast@gmail.com.
and all of this is in the show notes. Till next time.
Stay curious.
Hey, wait, before we end, on Patreon, all of our stuff is free. So if you would like to go to Patreon, you can listen there ad free for a limited time. Stay curious. Every morning starts with a choice. Don't settle for just coffee. Rise up with strong coffee. Meet the world's strongest cup of joe. Strong isn't just a drink, it's a movement. And strong stands for striving to reach our natural greatness.
Born from one simple need to be better. They rebuilt coffee from the ground up, infusing organic coffee with collagen, protein, nootropics, and functional ingredients that fuel your body and sharpen your mind. There's no crash, no compromises, just clean energy, focus, and flavor that fires you up.
Whether you're chasing kids, chasing goals, or chasing greatness, don't just wake up, rise up. Strong coffee, the world's strongest cup of joe, for a world ready to be better.
Use code INFOGO at checkout to save 15%.